The twin suns of Vedra shone softly over the glassy cities of the Zyran. Towers of silver and blue stretched high into the sky, reflecting the warmth of the morning light. The air shimmered with faint energy fields, a reminder of the planet's technological marvels. Zyran citizens moved along the streets, their tall, slender forms gliding gracefully, their skin glinting with faint bioluminescence. Everything about Vedra spoke of order, power, and confidence. For centuries, the Zyran had ruled their space region with intelligence and strength. They trusted their allies and their abilities, but today that trust would be tested. In the council chamber, a large dome of transparent crystal, the Zyran leaders sat in their usual seats. The council was a semicircle of imposing figures, each with eyes that reflected wisdom and years of careful planning. They were discussing interstellar trade agreements when a sudden alert flashed across the central holoscreen. Red letters blinked urgently. Krill fleet detected at outer colony borders. "Someone has aided them," he said, his voice low but heavy with certainty. The human ambassadors, standing quietly to the side, exchanged looks. Humans were a young species in the galactic community. They were observers and learners, not leaders, yet they had been welcomed here on Vedra because of their calm demeanor and curiosity. Today, their presence would be noticed in a way no one had predicted. Commander Alina Park, the human representative, stepped forward. She was shorter than the Zyran, but carried herself with a confidence that commanded attention. "We should not wait for chaos to spread," she said. "Evacuation and intelligence gathering can be done simultaneously. We can help coordinate the civilians' safety while scouting Krill movements." "Do you truly believe a few humans can change the outcome?" Valor asked, almost disdainfully. Alina did not flinch. "I do not claim we will win alone," she said, "but our perspective is different. The Krill may not expect strategies from species they consider weak. That can be our advantage." Zyran pride was immense, and accepting advice from humans was a challenge to that pride. Yet the council could not ignore the practical logic of her words. Within hours, alerts from the outer colonies confirmed the worst fears. The Krill had struck swiftly, using data that had come from within Zyran ranks. Ships fell from the sky like black meteors, and colonies were overwhelmed. Panic spread among the local population, who had always relied on Zyran protection. Families fled in panic, carrying what they could. The humans, however, moved calmly. They organized evacuation corridors, instructed local defenders, and even helped Zyran soldiers reroute their forces. Lieutenant Kale, a young Zyran officer, watched from the command deck as a human squad led civilians to safety. He had never trusted humans, but he could not deny the effectiveness of their actions. They moved with clarity and precision, adapting quickly to every change in the situation. Even when a Krill drone struck unexpectedly, the humans reacted instantly, saving dozens of Zyran citizens. Kale found himself questioning his assumptions about these small, seemingly weak beings. Meanwhile, the Krill fleet pressed forward. They were not merely raiding, they were attacking with coordination that implied inside help. Zyran intelligence teams began the painful process of unraveling the betrayal. Reports pointed to the Quarry, another alien race that had long been considered allies. The Quarry had shared crucial information with the Krill, enabling precise strikes. The council reconvened, tension thick in the air. "We were betrayed," Valor said, his voice tight with anger. "Our defenses were compromised because we trusted the wrong partners. The Quarry have turned against us." The humans remained calm, as though the storm around them had no effect. Alina spoke again, her voice steady, cutting through the tension. "Panic and anger will not save anyone," she said. "We need clear minds and decisive actions. The Krill are aggressive, yes, but they are predictable in their arrogance. If we adapt quickly, we can limit their damage and even turn the tide. They underestimate humans and perhaps even the Zyran. We can exploit that." They used the terrain, employed unorthodox tactics, and coordinated quickly across groups. Each success, however small, began to shift Zyran perception. Kale watched in awe as a human team navigated a collapsed colony, disabling Krill drones and guiding civilians to safe zones. He realized they were not just fighting, they were thinking differently. They were not bound by centuries of rigid tactics or pride. They saw opportunity where Zyran tradition might have seen danger. At night, as the first waves of Krill retreat signals appeared, the human squad gathered around a small fire. Zyran soldiers were hesitant, standing at a distance, unsure how to interact with these strange beings. Alina noticed Kale watching silently and gestured for him to join. He hesitated, then stepped closer, curious. "Why do you stay with us?" he asked quietly, almost embarrassed to voice the question. "You could leave. Humans have no obligation here." "We stay because it is the right thing to do. Loyalty is not given, it is decided." As dawn broke, the Zyran command received reports of Krill forces regrouping for a second strike. But this time, they faced a different opponent. Small teams of humans and Zyran moved quickly, coordinating strikes, sabotaging Krill supply lines, and rescuing trapped civilians. With each success, the morale of Zyran soldiers began to lift. They had faced enemies before, but never with allies who could think so unpredictably and act so fearlessly. In one critical moment, a human squad led Zyran civilians through a narrow canyon while Krill patrols closed in. Using quick thinking, humans created diversions and false trails, drawing the enemy away without any casualties. Zyran soldiers, following behind, could not hide their astonishment. By the end of the first week, the Krill retreat slightly, forced to regroup. The Zyran Council, still reeling from betrayal, realized something remarkable. Humans had not only stayed, they had risen to meet the crisis when even loyal Zyran forces hesitated. Valor stared at the human commander. "Your species is unexpected," he said quietly. "Perhaps we underestimated you." The betrayal by the quarry had revealed cracks in their world, but humans had revealed a different strength. One that was not based on centuries of dominance or advanced technology, but on courage, ingenuity, and loyalty. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows over Vedra's cities, Kale walked alongside Alina, witnessing the humans' tireless efforts to help. He realized that in the coming battles it would not be the largest fleet, the most advanced weapons, or the oldest alliances that determined victory. It would be the courage to stay, to act, and to choose right in the face of betrayal. And in that quiet understanding, Kale felt a stirring of hope. Perhaps the Zyran would survive, not just because of their power, but because humans had chosen to stand with them. And in that choice, there was something far greater than technology or strategy. There was trust, loyalty, and the spark of something truly remarkable. The first part of the story ended with the Zyran Council realizing that the real battle was not just against the Krill or the traitorous quarry. It was about learning to value a new kind of ally, one who stayed even when everything seemed lost. Humans were small, young, and underestimated, yet they had already begun to change the way the Zyran saw the galaxy and themselves. The Zyran fleet hovered above the outer colonies, the sleek silver ships reflecting the harsh light of the twin suns. On the command deck of the flagship, alarms blinked continuously, signaling scattered attacks and the rapid movement of Krill forces. The betrayal by the quarry had left the Zyran exposed, and even their advanced technology could not fully counter the precision strikes now raining down on their colonies. Commander Alina Park stood beside Captain Zorlin, the fleet commander. Her eyes moved over the holomap, tracing the movements of both Zyran and Krill ships. Unlike the Zyran officers, she was calm, her mind analyzing the situation with clarity rather than panic. "The Krill are exploiting every weak point," she said. "They assume the Zyran will act predictably, following the old defense patterns. That's why they're winning. Predictable or not, our colonies are falling. The quarry betrayal was fatal. We cannot hold them. If they expect strategy, we improvise. We'll disrupt the Krill advance and protect the civilians. The Zyran forces can cover the larger fronts." The planet's surface spread below them, dotted with glowing cities and farmland. From orbit, the destruction was already visible, smoke rising from burned settlements and small Krill strike units advancing. As they landed, Alina took a deep breath and assessed the situation. "Split into squads," she ordered. "Evacuate civilians first, then neutralize enemy patrols. Move fast, think fast. Don't wait for instructions." Kale followed a group of humans through narrow alleys. He saw how they communicated without words, using small gestures, glances, and intuition. One human placed a small device on the ground, which emitted a light and sound that distracted a patrol while civilians escaped. Kale had never imagined tactics like this. A child stumbled in the chaos, and a human soldier instantly scooped the child up, shielding them with his body. Kale's heart tightened. The humans were risking themselves in ways the Zyran seldom did. Loyalty, bravery, and self-sacrifice were foreign concepts in his culture, rarely extended beyond necessity or political gain. Hours passed in a blur of movement. Civilians were evacuated to safe zones, Krill patrols were intercepted, and human teams used the landscape to set traps and mislead the enemy. Every success was small, yet critical. Slowly, the tide at Vera 7 began to shift. When the last group of civilians was secured, Kale finally spoke to Alina. "I don't understand," he said. "You stay here fighting, risking your life for us. Why?" "You have no reason to care." Zyran loyalty was given for political gain or mutual benefit, not principles. Humans, it seemed, followed a different law, one that did not depend on fear, power, or alliances. It depended on the choice to act with courage and conscience. Meanwhile, in Zyran Command, reports came in showing progress at other colonies. Small teams of humans were leading rescue missions, sabotaging Krill supply lines and disrupting enemy communications. The fleet, inspired by the humans' success, began to reorganize. Zyran captains who had doubted humans now followed their advice, adapting their strategies. Yet the Krill were relentless. New intelligence revealed that their attacks were more than just opportunistic strikes. They had inside knowledge of Zyran fleet movements, colony layouts, and defensive strategies. The betrayal ran deeper than anyone had imagined. Valor, the counselor, slammed his clawed hand on the console. "The quarry provided the data, yes, but they cannot have all of it. Someone within our ranks is still feeding them information. Creativity and courage can outmatch betrayal and cunning if we act decisively." They adapted traps and ambushes using terrain to their advantage. Kale observed, learning quickly. One human, Lieutenant Marcus explained, "The Krill assume superiority because we are small and inexperienced. That assumption is a weapon. Use it against them." They calculated risk, yes, but they acted boldly, often where caution would have paralyzed others. It was a form of courage that the Zyran had rarely cultivated. In the following days, humans led counter-strikes. Small teams infiltrated Krill positions, destroyed supply caches, and freed captured Zyran soldiers. Each success spread hope. Zyran soldiers began to see humans not as allies to tolerate, but as partners to admire. During one daring operation, a human squad discovered a Krill communication hub. Alina led the mission personally. They navigated the facility with precision, avoiding patrols and disabling security systems. When they reached the control center, they uploaded a virus that scrambled the Krill's internal communications, delaying attacks across several colonies. Zyran commanders watching from orbit could hardly believe the results. The humans had not only succeeded in a mission far beyond their expected capacity, they had turned the enemy's strengths into weaknesses. After the mission, Kale walked alongside Alina as they surveyed a recovered village. The Zyran citizens were weary but safe. "You do this because it is the right thing?" he asked again quietly. Alina nodded. "We stay for those who cannot fight for themselves. We fight for what is just, not because we expect reward or praise. That choice, that is why humans endure. That is why we stay on your side." Civilians were safer, and Zyran soldiers were regaining confidence. Human strategies, daring as they were, had created breathing space for the fleet to reorganize. Zorlin turned to the council via hollow communication. "The humans, their methods are unconventional, but they are working. If we continue to follow their guidance, we may yet stabilize the situation. Stronger in ways we did not anticipate." He realized that while the betrayal had almost destroyed them, it had also shown the Zyran something invaluable, the true power of choice, courage, and loyalty. Alina approached, noticing Kale's silent contemplation. "Tomorrow the Krill will strike again," she said softly. "But remember this, humans stay because we believe in principles, not convenience. That belief is stronger than fear, stronger than betrayal." As night fell, humans and Zyran alike prepared for the next battle, each side learning from the other. The Krill believed that betrayal had doomed the Zyran, but they had not accounted for human ingenuity, courage, and unwavering loyalty. And in that oversight lay the seed of hope, a hope that could turn the tide and perhaps, just perhaps, change the fate of an entire species. The second part of the story ended with the Zyran beginning to see humans not as small, weak allies, but as unseen giants, whose choices and courage could defy betrayal and reshape the course of the war. The Krill forces were relentless. Despite the humans' earlier successes, their fleets and patrols were regrouping, repairing damages, and preparing for another assault. The Zyran home colonies were tense. Families moved cautiously behind protective barriers, and soldiers kept vigilant watch over every sky and ground approach. The betrayal by the quarry had not only weakened their defenses, but had also left a shadow of doubt over every Zyran officer. Trust was fragile. On the bridge of the Zyran flagship, Commander Alina Park stood with Lieutenant Kale, watching the holomap flicker with incoming enemy positions. "They've repaired their systems faster than we expected," Kale said, his voice tight with concern. "They know our moves, or at least they think they do. We've been predictable because the Zyran always follow strict protocols. That ends now. Predictability is their weakness, and unpredictability is ours. We turn their expectations against them." Each team had a specific objective: sabotage Krill supply lines, intercept communications, rescue trapped civilians, and mislead enemy patrols. Unlike traditional Zyran operations, these missions were fluid, requiring rapid decisions and improvisation. Kale was assigned to a joint team with 2 humans, Lieutenant Marcus and Sergeant Leela. Their task was to infiltrate a Krill supply depot and disable critical energy relays. The depot was heavily guarded, surrounded by rocky cliffs and automated drones. Marcus crouched behind a boulder, scanning the area. "Drones patrol in predictable loops," he whispered. "We'll use that. Wait for the moment they're out of sync, then move fast." "And if we're caught?" They reached the depot's outer perimeter without alerting a single guard. Inside, they moved with precision. Marcus disabled the energy relays while Kale kept watch for patrols. Leela hacked the internal communications, sending false signals that suggested the depot was secure, luring the Krill forces into a trap set outside. Within minutes, the depot was effectively neutralized, and the team slipped away before the Krill realized what had happened. Kale could hardly believe it. "You did all that without anyone being hurt?" he asked. Marcus grinned. "We plan for safety, but we adapt for survival, you see. Humans stay calm because we trust our choices, not just our weapons." Meanwhile, at another colony, Commander Alina led a daring rescue mission. A Krill strike unit had cornered a group of civilians in a mining complex. Using knowledge of the terrain and human ingenuity, Alina orchestrated a distraction that drew Krill patrols away, allowing Zyran and human soldiers to escort the civilians to safety. One soldier, a Zyran veteran named Torek, watched in amazement as humans set up barriers, create diversions, and move silently with the precision of a seasoned force. "How do they do it?" Torek whispered to Kale. "They act like it's second nature, but I've never seen them train for this. They choose to act, and that choice makes them strong." The Krill, frustrated by these setbacks, launched more aggressive attacks, often falling into traps set by humans and loyal Zyran forces. One particularly tense moment came when a Krill fleet attempted to blockade the orbit of Vedra's primary colony. Human analysts discovered a gap in their formation caused by a minor miscalculation. Alina quickly coordinated a strike using small human Zyran teams to disable the fleet's energy generators. The mission succeeded, sending the Krill retreating in confusion. Zyran officers were astonished. "Humans are more effective than we imagined," Captain Zorlin admitted during a council briefing. "They act beyond our predictions. They are not strong because of technology, they are strong because of choice." Children laughed cautiously, playing among the rubble. He saw human soldiers distributing food and medical supplies, guiding families to shelters and reassuring the frightened. Their presence was more than tactical, it was a beacon of hope. Kale realized something profound. The humans stayed not because of treaties or orders. They stayed because they believed in doing what was right. In that belief was power, a kind of strength that Zyran history had seldom honored. It was not the largest fleet, the most advanced weapon, or the cleverest spy that had changed the battle. It was principled courage. At night, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Alina gathered her team. "Tomorrow the Krill will try again," she said. "They will attack harder. But remember this, they expect fear, hesitation, and confusion. They will not expect strategy born from choice and courage. That is our advantage. We act decisively. We adapt. We win." For the first time, Kale understood why humans were staying on the Zyran side, despite danger and betrayal. It was not obligation, it was principle. The next day, the Krill launched a massive ground assault on a border colony. They assumed the Zyran would fall back, expecting routine defenses. Instead, small human-led teams had prepared traps and ambush points. Krill units were funneled into narrow valleys where automated barriers slowed their advance. Humans and Zyran soldiers struck from hidden positions, using the terrain to their advantage. Panic spread through the Krill ranks as coordinated attacks dismantled their formations. Kale fought alongside the humans, following their lead, adapting to their methods. Every human action was deliberate, calculated, yet fluid and flexible. They saved lives, redirected enemy attacks, and inspired Zyran soldiers to act with courage beyond their usual protocol. By the end of the day, the Krill forces had been repelled. Zyran casualties were lower than expected, and civilians were safe. Victory was not absolute, but it was significant. The Zyran had survived a potentially catastrophic assault, thanks to the humans' ingenuity, courage, and loyalty. That evening, Kale sat with Alina as they watched the stars above Vedra. "I understand now," he said quietly. "You stay because you choose to, and that choice, it makes all the difference. That is why we are here, that is why we stay." The betrayal of the quarry had almost shattered the Zyran, but it had also revealed something extraordinary. Humans, small and young in the galactic scale, had the strength to stand firm, to act decisively, and to inspire courage in those around them. The Zyran had been forced to rethink their assumptions, and a new bond of trust and respect was forming. Kale realized that the battles ahead would be even harder, but he no longer doubted the humans' commitment. They stayed not because it was easy or safe, but because they believed in something greater than themselves. And in that belief lay a power the Zyran had long forgotten, the unyielding strength of principle and loyalty. As Vedra's twin moons rose, casting pale light over the recovering colonies, Kale understood that the true war had only just begun. The Krill would return and more challenges lay ahead. But with humans at their side, they had a chance. Not because of superior technology, not because of old alliances, but because humans had chosen to stay, chosen to fight, and chosen to be unwavering. In that choice was hope, and in hope was the seed of victory. The Krill had not forgotten the defeat at Vera 7. Their fleet regrouped, their patrols grew more aggressive, and their attacks became more precise. Every movement by the Zyran forces was watched carefully, every weakness noted. Yet despite these dangers, human-led squads continued to push back, rescuing civilians, sabotaging supply lines, and striking at unexpected targets. The Zyran had begun to rely on humans not just for ingenuity, but for hope. In the central command of Vedra, the council gathered once more. The betrayal by the quarry had shaken them to the core, but reports now hinted at something far worse. Several intercepted communications suggested that someone within the Zyran leadership had been feeding information to the Krill all along. Vaylor, his usually calm demeanor replaced with tension, slammed his clawed hand against the console. "The quarry were just the beginning," he said. "We have a traitor. Someone here in Vedra has betrayed us." If this is true, the Krill have had inside knowledge from the start. That explains the precision strikes. But who? There is no time to waste. Human analysts worked alongside Zyran intelligence officers, cross-referencing intercepted Krill communications, fleet movements, and colony defense data. Slowly, patterns emerged. The traitors' signals were subtle, hidden in the chaos, but humans were adept at seeing what others missed. Alina gathered a small team to investigate further. "We must move carefully," she said. "The traitor will notice if we are reckless. Our advantage is that they believe they are hidden. We can use that against them." Every anomaly was noted, every deviation examined. Hours turned into days. The Krill continued to strike, but their attacks were increasingly disrupted by human-led teams. They expected predictable patterns, but human unpredictability made their strategies fail. Supply convoys vanished, patrols were ambushed, and Krill drones were sabotaged in ways no one had predicted. Zyran soldiers were amazed by the humans' ability to adapt to every new situation. Then, a breakthrough came. Marcus, a human analyst, discovered a repeated pattern in encrypted communications. "The Krill messages are timed based on someone inside the fleet sending updates," he said. "The pattern points to someone in the upper council, someone with access to strategy logs. If this is true, one of us is a traitor. How do we proceed without causing chaos?" Every request for fleet movements and supply data was analyzed. The humans used methods Zyran officers had never considered, combining intuition with precise calculation. Days passed and tension grew. Trust was strained, but the humans' presence provided stability. They were not bound by tradition, pride, or fear. They were bound by choice. They stayed on the Zyran side because they believed in right, and that belief guided every action. Finally, evidence pointed to one individual, Counselor Varric, a senior strategist. His access to fleet data combined with suspicious communications and unexplained movement of Krill forces made him the primary suspect. Alina presented the findings to Captain Zorlin and Kale. The evidence is strong. Varric has been supplying the Krill with critical information. If we act now, we can stop him and regain control of the fleet's security. A human-led team would intercept Varric during a council meeting, isolate him, and secure all his communications. Zyran soldiers would cover exits and prevent any interference. Precision and timing were critical. As the team moved into position, Kale felt a mix of fear and determination. The humans' courage was inspiring, but this was different. They were about to confront betrayal from within, and failure could cost thousands of lives. The meeting began. Counselor Varric spoke calmly, unaware that human and loyal Zyran forces were already watching him. Marcus and Alina monitored his communication devices, tracking every signal. A signal from his private terminal confirmed the suspicions. The Krill were receiving real-time updates. Alina signaled the team. They moved quickly, entering the chamber with coordinated precision. Kale watched as humans approached Varric calmly but firmly, isolating him from the rest of the council. The traitor tried to resist, but the humans' training and coordination were unmatched. In minutes, Varric was restrained and his devices secured. The council watched in stunned silence. A mix of shock, anger, and relief swept through the chamber. Vaylor stepped forward. "I cannot believe it," he said, voice tight. "One of our own working with the Krill. We act decisively, restore order, and protect those who cannot defend themselves." Human teams quickly reorganized Zyran defenses, using the element of surprise to launch counterattacks. Small squads infiltrated Krill positions, disrupted supply lines, and freed civilians trapped behind enemy lines. The humans' tactics continued to rely on ingenuity, courage, and adaptation rather than brute force. Kale fought alongside humans for the first time in a counterstrike. They moved fluidly, communicating silently, predicting enemy movements, and improvising at every turn. Where Zyran soldiers had once relied solely on advanced weapons and strict protocol, humans taught them to think creatively, to use terrain, and to turn disadvantages into opportunities. By the end of the day, multiple Krill units were destroyed, and several colonies were stabilized. The traitors' exposure had not only removed a critical threat, but also boosted morale. Zyran soldiers were learning to respect humans not just as allies, but as teachers and leaders in courage and strategy. That evening, as Kale walked through one of the liberated colonies, he saw the humans helping rebuild, guiding civilians, and ensuring everyone was safe. Their presence brought a sense of calm and hope. Children played cautiously among the rubble, families shared quiet meals, and the survivors whispered thanks to the humans who had risked everything for them. Kale turned to Alina. "I understand now. You stay because it is the right thing. That choice, it inspires everyone, even us. By staying true to principles, even when danger is everywhere, by acting with courage and loyalty. That is why we are here. That is why we stay." The Krill would regroup, and further challenges would come. But for the first time, the Zyran had hope. Humans had shown them that loyalty and courage were forces stronger than fear and betrayal. They had proven that even when everything seemed lost, principled action could make a difference. The Zyran would face future battles with renewed determination, inspired by the humans' unwavering commitment. Kale stood atop a hill, looking out at the recovering colony. The twin moons shone over the fields and homes, casting long shadows. He realized that the humans had changed everything. They were not just allies, they were a force of hope, courage, and principle. The Zyran had been betrayed, yes, but they had also been shown a new way to survive, a way rooted in loyalty, choice, and courage. Alina approached him, her expression calm but determined. "Tomorrow, the Krill will come again," she said. "But remember this, humans act because it is right. That choice is stronger than any weapon, stronger than any betrayal. That is why we stay, and that is why we will endure." And with humans by their side, the Zyran now had the strength to face it. The night was quiet, but Kale knew the Krill would return. Yet, for the first time, he did not feel fear. Humans had shown that strength came not just from technology or numbers, but from the choice to stand, to fight, and to remain loyal when everything else had failed. That lesson would carry the Zyran through the challenges yet to come. The Krill had regrouped. Their fleet loomed above Vedra like a shadow, dark and overwhelming. Every ship bristled with weapons, and their attack drones scoured the skies and surface below. The Zyran homeworld, recovering from betrayal and near defeat, now faced the greatest threat yet. But the humans had prepared the Zyran in ways the Krill could not anticipate. Commander Alina Park stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the holomap. Every marker, every fleet movement, every energy reading was analyzed and cross-checked. Her human team moved calmly, assigning squads, coordinating strikes, and calculating risks. Where Zyran officers had once relied solely on protocol and strength, Alina and her team relied on creativity, improvisation, and trust in human choice. Lieutenant Kale stood beside her, observing the humans' precision. He had learned so much since the Krill first attacked. Humans did not just fight, they adapted, improvised, and inspired others to act beyond fear. He glanced at the Zyran fleet, now reorganized and ready to fight, with morale higher than ever. Humans had taught them to believe, and belief was a weapon the Krill could not measure. Reports indicate the Krill will attempt a dual assault, Alina said, pointing at the holomap. One fleet will strike the northern colonies, while another moves directly toward the planetary defense grid. They expect panic, they expect chaos, they will find neither. That is how we win. Small teams moved ahead of the main fleet, sabotaging energy relays, jamming communications, and setting traps that funneled Krill forces into zones where Zyran defenses could strike most effectively. Kale fought on the surface alongside a mixed human-Zyran squad. They moved through the ruined outskirts of a colony, using collapsed buildings and terrain as cover. Krill drones advanced methodically, expecting predictable resistance. Instead, humans and Zyran ambushed them from multiple angles, coordinating silently, improvising as the enemy shifted tactics. Each strike was precise, each maneuver unexpected. "Move left," Marcus shouted. "They don't anticipate attacks from that sector." Even the youngest Zyran soldiers learned quickly, adapting to the unpredictable style. The Krill, frustrated, began to make mistakes, their formations breaking under pressure. Above, the human-led fleet targeted key Krill capital ships. Alina coordinated strikes that used the enemy's own momentum against them. Smaller vessels created false signals, drawing Krill units into traps where Zyran cannons and hidden ambushes disabled them. The humans' unpredictability, combined with Zyran strength, made for devastating results. In the northern colonies, humans led rescue missions, moving civilians from danger zones even as the sky filled with Krill fire. They used clever diversions and misdirection, splitting enemy focus, allowing Zyran forces to neutralize the main threats. Children and families, terrified yet protected, were guided to safety through paths humans had improvised, avoiding danger that no protocol could have foreseen. Kale watched a human soldier shield a group of civilians from falling debris, then continue fighting without hesitation. "Why do they do it?" he asked a nearby Zyran officer. The officer shook his head. "It is not for reward, it is not for orders, it is principle. They choose to act. That choice makes them stronger than we imagined." The Krill expected the Zyran to defend directly, but instead, humans had created controlled chaos. Enemy ships were drawn into kill zones, where coordinated fire destroyed key units with minimal losses. Amidst the chaos, Kale spotted Valor and other senior Zyran officers issuing orders with newfound clarity and flexibility. They were learning from humans, adapting to a style that combined courage with improvisation. The humans' influence had already reshaped the way the Zyran fought, making them unpredictable in ways the Krill could not calculate. Alina turned to Kale. "Watch the Krill reactions," she said. "They are frustrated. They cannot predict us because humans do not act predictably. They rely on fear and hesitation, but we have neither." Their coordinated attacks were failing, their supply lines disrupted, their communications scrambled. The humans, small teams, had created confusion and chaos that the Krill could not overcome. Alina led a strike against the Krill command ship orbiting the planet. Using a combination of Zyran firepower and human ingenuity, they disabled shields, targeted weak points, and finally breached the vessel. The Krill flagship erupted in flames, scattering their forces and demoralizing their troops. Kale stood on the battlefield below, watching the Krill retreat. Zyran soldiers cheered, civilians cried in relief, and the humans moved calmly, tending to the wounded and organizing defenses. The victory was not complete, but it was decisive. The Krill had underestimated the strength of loyalty, courage, and choice. Later, as the sun set, Alina and Kale walked through one of the saved colonies. Families were returning to their homes, Zyran engineers were repairing buildings, and human squads ensured that no threat remained. Children played cautiously, laughing for the first time in days, and adults offered quiet thanks to the humans who had risked everything for them. Kale turned to Alina. I understand now. It is not just bravery or skill. You stay, you fight because it is right. That choice, it changes everything. That is why we stay. The humans' presence had reshaped the Zyran perspective, teaching them to value trust, adaptability, and moral strength over pride and rigidity. Kale realized that this battle, though won, had done more than stop the Krill. It had changed his people, revealing the true meaning of loyalty and courage. Humans had shown that being underestimated did not mean being weak, that the choice to stand firm could outmatch betrayal, deceit, and overwhelming force. Alina watched the horizon, her team resting nearby. The Krill may regroup, she said softly, but they will never underestimate humans again. And the Zyran, they have learned a lesson they cannot unlearn. Courage, loyalty, and choice, these are weapons no enemy can destroy. The humans had not only saved lives, they had inspired an entire species to fight differently, to believe differently, and to endure when hope seemed lost. Across the colonies, humans and Zyran worked side by side, rebuilding, reinforcing, and preparing for whatever challenges might come. The Krill, once a looming shadow of fear, had been forced to retreat, their confidence shaken. Humanity had proven once again that loyalty and courage could defy expectation, and that even the smallest, most underestimated species could change the fate of an entire world. That night, Kale stood on a hill overlooking the central city. The twin moons reflected off the silver towers, casting long shadows. He thought of the days past, the betrayal, the near defeat, the fear, and compared them to the humans' unwavering presence. They had stayed when no one else might, fought when others hesitated, and chosen right over convenience or safety. For the first time, he felt hope unshakable. The Zyran had survived betrayal, repelled the Krill, and learned a lesson that would remain forever. Loyalty, courage, and principled action could triumph over fear, deceit, and overwhelming odds. Alina approached him, standing silently beside Kale. The Krill will test us again, she said quietly. But with humans here, and with what we've taught the Zyran, they will never defeat the strength of choice. And humans had taught them that lesson through action, not words. The Krill fleet might return, the colonies might face new dangers, but the Zyran had seen something unshakable. When humans choose to stand with you, they do not falter. They do not abandon. They act, inspire, and endure. And in that choice, Kale knew, lay the true power of humanity, a power that even the most fearsome enemies could never calculate, anticipate, or destroy. As the night deepened, the human squads moved quietly through the city, assisting wherever needed. The Zyran, inspired and motivated, followed their lead. Trust had been restored, hope had returned, and the bonds between species had strengthened. Betrayal had almost destroyed them, but loyalty and courage had saved them instead. Kale smiled quietly. The Krill had underestimated humans as so many others had, but humans had stayed, humans had fought, humans had chosen, and that choice had changed the fate of a species. The twin moons shone brightly over Vedra, reflecting on silver towers and fields alike. The Zyran homeworld was safe for now, but the lesson remained. Courage, loyalty, and choice were more powerful than fear, betrayal, or overwhelming force. And humans, small and underestimated as they were, had proven it beyond doubt. In the coming days, months, and years, the Zyran would tell stories of this war, not just of ships and battles, but of humans who stood when it mattered most. They would remember that courage and loyalty are choices, and that the right choice can change the universe. And so, humanity stayed on their side, unwavering, principled, and strong, leaving a mark on the Zyran that no weapon, betrayal, or enemy could ever erase.